and welcome. If you're listening to this right now, there's a good chance you're lying in bed, maybe staring at the ceiling, maybe watching the gentle play of shadows across the wall. And there's also a good chance that somewhere in your mind, underneath everything else, there's a question about money that won't quite let you rest. Maybe you're still working, counting down the years, wondering if you've saved enough. Maybe you've already retired, and you're watching your accounts, wondering if they'll last as long as you do. Maybe you're somewhere in between, not sure when you can stop, not sure how to start. And maybe, just maybe, there's a particular phrase that keeps echoing in your mind. Compound interest. You've heard people talk about it. You've seen the charts, the exponential curves, the promises of money making money. And perhaps you've also felt a quiet sense of regret, a feeling that maybe you missed something, that maybe you started too late. If any of that resonates with you, I want you to know something right away. You are not alone, and you are not too late. My name is Robert, and I'm 52 years old. That means I'm right there with you, navigating this strange territory of the second half of life. Whether you're still working, thinking about retirement, or already there, I understand. Tonight, we're going to explore something together. Something that might change how you think about money forever. The quiet truth about compound interest. Not the loud, urgent version you see in advertisements. Not the version that makes you feel like you've already failed. But the real, honest, calming truth. The one that acknowledges where you are right now and shows you what's still possible. Before we begin, I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. Are you in a quiet bedroom in the Midwest? A city apartment with traffic sounds below? A small town where crickets sing outside your window? Leave a comment if you feel like it. Let others in this community know they're not alone. There's something comforting about knowing that right now, all over the world, people just like us are lying in the dark, thinking about the same things. And if you find value in what we explore tonight, a like helps others find this quiet corner of the internet. And subscribing means you'll be notified when new episodes arrive. But there's no pressure. We're just here to rest and learn together. Now, let's settle in. Get comfortable. Adjust your pillow if you need to. Let your shoulders drop. There's nothing you need to do right now. Nowhere you need to be. No financial decision that needs to be made tonight. Whatever questions are circling in your mind, they can wait. For the next 2 hours or so, you're safe. You're here to understand, to find some peace. And maybe, just maybe, to discover that compound interest has been quietly waiting for you all along. It doesn't care about your past, only your future. Let's begin. Let's start at the very beginning. Not with numbers, not with formulas, but with a question. Why does compound interest feel so hard to understand? If you've ever felt confused by compound interest, I want you to know something important. It's not because you're bad at math. It's not because you didn't pay attention in school. It's because your brain was literally not designed to think this way. And that's not an insult. It's biology. You see, humans evolved to think in straight lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's linear thinking. And it served us well for hundreds of thousands of years. If you walked 10 steps yesterday and 10 steps today, you could reasonably expect to walk 10 steps tomorrow. Our brains developed to process that kind of predictable, linear change. But compound interest doesn't work in straight lines. It works in curves, exponential curves. And our brains, quite simply, were never built for that. Researchers call this exponential growth bias. It's the tendency to underestimate how quickly things grow when they compound. Let me show you what I mean with a little thought experiment. It's called the penny doubled every day. Imagine I offered you a choice. Option A, I give you $1 million right now. Option B, I give you 1 penny today, and I double it every day for 30 days. Which would you choose? Most people instinctively choose the $1 million. It feels safer. It's a known quantity. A penny doubled for 30 days seems like it couldn't possibly compete. But here's what actually happens. Day 1, you have 1 cent. Day 5, you have 16 cents. Day 10, you have about $5. Still not impressive, right? Day 15, you have about $160. Day 20, you have about $5,000. You're still way behind the million. But then something strange happens. Day 25, you have about $168,000. Day 28, you have about 1,300,000. And day 30, $5,368,709. More than 5 times the $1 million option. From a single penny. That's the power of exponential growth. And that's why your brain couldn't see it coming. It's not a failure of intelligence. It's a feature of human evolution. Researchers at the London School of Economics found that this bias is remarkably consistent. Even people who are good at math, even financial professionals, systematically underestimate compound growth. We're all wired the same way. And here's something that might bring you peace. If compound interest doesn't feel intuitive to you, that's not a personal failing. It's being human. But our relationship with compound interest isn't just about math. There's another force working against us. Psychologists call it present bias. Present bias is the tendency to prefer smaller rewards now over larger rewards later. It's why we eat the cookie instead of waiting for dinner. Why we buy the thing instead of saving the money. Why we choose comfort today over security tomorrow. And here's the thing. Present bias isn't weakness. It's also human nature. For most of human history, the future was uncertain. If you found food, you ate it. There was no guarantee there would be food tomorrow. Our ancestors who prioritized the present were more likely to survive, and we inherited their brains. So when someone tells you to sacrifice now for a reward in 30 years, your brain literally struggles to process that trade-off. It's not that you don't care about your future self. It's that your future self feels like a stranger. This isn't philosophy. It's neuroscience. Researchers at Stanford found something fascinating. When they showed people digitally aged photographs of themselves, something shifted. Seeing their own older face made the future feel more real, more personal. And people who saw these aged photographs saved significantly more money. The future self stopped being a stranger. They became someone worth protecting. There's another psychological barrier we should talk about. It's called financial anxiety, and it creates a cruel loop. The more worried you are about money, the more painful it is to look at your finances. So you avoid them. But avoidance doesn't make the problem go away. It just confirms your fears, and the anxiety grows. Many people over 50 experience this. The fear of looking at the numbers. The dread of seeing how far behind they might be. The shame of not having done more sooner. If that's you, I understand. And I want you to know that the very act of listening to this video is a form of breaking that cycle. You're not avoiding anymore. You're engaging. Gently, peacefully, in a way that respects your nervous system. And that's exactly right. There's good news about all of this. Understanding these psychological barriers is actually more valuable than understanding the math. Because once you know why your brain works this way, you can work with it instead of against it. At 52, I've realized that understanding why my brain resists compound interest was more valuable than any formula. Once I stopped blaming myself for not getting it, I could finally learn. And one of the most powerful tools for working with your brain, not against it, is automation. When you automate your savings, you remove the decision. You remove the pain of paying. The money moves from your account to your investments before you ever see it. Before your present biased brain can object. Researchers Benartzi and Thaler created something called Save More Tomorrow. It's a program where people agree now to save more later. Specifically, to increase their savings rate with each future raise. The results were remarkable. People who would never agree to save more today happily agreed to save more tomorrow. And because it was automated, they actually followed through. Their present bias was bypassed. and their savings rates more than tripled over a few years. So if there's one practical insight to take from this section, it's this. Don't fight your psychology. Use it. Automate what you can. Make saving the default. Make spending the conscious choice that requires effort. Your future self will thank you, even if they still feel like a stranger right now. Now that we understand why our brains resist compound interest, let's explore the beautiful mathematics underneath. And I promise, it's simpler than you think. There's a simple trick that has been used for over 500 years. It's called the Rule of 72. And it allows you to calculate how long it takes your money to double with just simple division. No calculator needed. No complex formulas. Just 72 divided by your interest rate. Here's how it works. If your investments are growing at 7% per year, which is roughly what stocks have returned after inflation historically, you divide 72 by 7. That gives you about 10, which means your money doubles approximately every 10 years. If you're getting 10%, your money doubles every 7.2 years. At 3%, like a savings account, it takes about 24 years to double. The math is that simple. This rule first appeared in a book written in 1494 by a mathematician named Luca Pacioli, a friend of Leonardo da Vinci. It was a quick rule of thumb for merchants to estimate how their investments would grow. And it still works perfectly today. When I first truly understood the Rule of 72, I felt like I'd been let in on a secret. Something that should have been taught in every school. Simple division. Powerful results. Let's see what this means in practice. Say you're 50 years old with $50,000 saved, and you expect to live until 85. That's 35 years. At 7%, your money doubles about every 10 years. After 10 years, at age 60, your 50,000 becomes 100,000. After 20 years, at age 70, it becomes 200,000. After 30 years, at age 80, it becomes 400,000. And after 35 years, at 85, it's approaching 800,000. All from an initial 50,000, with no additional contributions. Just patience. Just time. Just the quiet work of compound interest. Now, what if you do add contributions? What if you save just $500 a month for the next 20 years? At 7%, that $500 a month turns into over $260,000. And most of that, about $140,000, comes from compound growth. Not from the money you put in. There's a concept that legendary investor Charlie Munger talks about. He calls the first $100,000 the hardest. And there's profound wisdom in that. When you have $10,000, a 10% market year gives you $1,000. Nice, but not life-changing. When you have $100,000, that same 10% gives you $10,000. That's often more than people can save in an entire year. Your money starts working harder than you do. And when you have $500,000, a 10% year gives you $50,000. That's a full salary for many people, generated while you sleep, while you travel, while you live your life. This is why the end of the compounding journey is so much more powerful than the beginning. The math is backloaded. The magic happens later. Which means, ironically, the older you are, the closer you are to the most powerful part of the curve. There's a beautiful way to think about how much money you need to generate a specific income. If you want $1,000 per month indefinitely, at a safe withdrawal rate of 4%, you need $300,000. That's $12,000 a year, which is 4% of $300,000. For $2,000 a month, you need $600,000. For $5,000 a month, you need $1.5 million. These numbers might seem large, but remember the rule of 72. Every 10 years at 7%, your money doubles. Time is the multiplier, not the amount. Let that thought settle for a moment. The math isn't complicated. It's just patient. Now here's where it gets personal. What if you're 50, or 55, or 60? And you're thinking, this is beautiful, Robert, but I started too late. Let me tell you some stories that might change your mind. I want to introduce you to a man named Ronald Reed. Ronald worked as a gas station attendant, then as a janitor at a JCPenney. He never earned more than minimum wage. He never inherited money. He never won the lottery. When Ronald died in 2015, at the age of 92, people were shocked. This quiet, unassuming janitor had accumulated $8 million. $8 million. From a lifetime of small, consistent investments in blue-chip stocks. He never sold. He just let time and compound interest do their quiet work. Or consider Grace Groner. Grace worked as a secretary at Abbott Laboratories for 43 years. In 1935, she bought 3 shares of Abbott stock. Total cost, $180. She never sold. She reinvested every dividend. When she died in 2010, those 3 shares had multiplied and grown to $7 million. $180. 75 years. $7 million. Not from genius stock picking. Not from market timing. From patience. And then there's Ann Scheiber. Ann was an IRS auditor who retired in 1944. She had saved just $5,000. She was already 51 years old. Most people would say she started too late. But Ann invested that $5,000 in stocks. She never sold. She lived frugally. She reinvested everything. When she died in 1995, at the age of 101, her $5,000 had grown to $22 million. $22 million. Starting at 51. With $5,000. These aren't fairy tales. These are documented cases. Ordinary people. Extraordinary patience. Now I know what you might be thinking. These people had 75 years, or 50 years, or 40 years. I don't have that long, and that's a fair concern. But let me offer some perspective. If you're 50 years old today, you statistically have 30 to 35 years ahead of you. That's an entire adult lifetime. That's 3 complete doublings at 7%. Your money can grow by a factor of 8. If you're 60, you likely have 25 to 30 years. 2 to 3 doublings. A factor of 4 to 8. Even if you're 70, you might have 15 to 20 years. Time for your money to double, maybe twice. And here's something researchers have found that might surprise you. People in their 50s often have an advantage that younger people don't. It's called the 50-plus advantage. Think about it. At 50, your children have often moved out. Your mortgage might be paid off, or close to it. Your career earnings are often at their peak. And your major expenses, the house, the kids, the education, are behind you. A 50-year-old can often save 30%, 40%, even 50% of their income. Something that was impossible in their 30s when they were paying for daycare and diapers. The math of starting late can actually work in your favor. And the tax code helps too. If you're 50 or older, you can make catch-up contributions to your retirement accounts. In 2025, that means an extra $7,500 per year in your 401k, on top of the standard limit. And for people aged 60 to 63, there's something new called the Super Catch-Up. You can contribute even more, over $11,000 extra. The government is literally incentivizing you to save more later in life. Let's do some quick math on those catch-up contributions. If a 50-year-old contributes just the extra $7,500 each year for 15 years, that's 7% growth. That catch-up portion alone grows to nearly $200,000 by age 65. $200,000 just from the catch-up, not counting regular contributions, not counting what you already have, just the extra that's available to you because you're over 50. At 52, I've stopped mourning the years I lost. And I've started celebrating the decades I still have. A 30-year-old me would actually be jealous. Jealous of my current earning power. Jealous of my lowered expenses. Jealous of my catch-up contribution limits. In my 52 years, I've come to understand something important. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Now, let's talk about the enemies of compound interest. The silent killers that can undo years of patient growth. The first enemy might surprise you. It's not market crashes. It's not recessions. It's fees. Tiny, almost invisible fees that quietly devour your compound growth. Let me show you how devastating a small fee can be. Imagine you have $100,000 and you're choosing between two funds. Fund A charges 1% per year. Fund B charges 0.1% per year. They both return 7% before fees. Over 30 years, that 0.9% difference, that seemingly tiny gap, costs you over $140,000. $140,000 from a fee that seemed almost negligible. The SEC has calculated this. A 1% annual fee reduces your final portfolio value by 25 to 28% over 30 years. You're not paying 1%. You're paying a quarter of your retirement. This is why simple low-cost index funds have become so popular. Over 15 years, nearly 90% of actively managed funds fail to beat a simple index fund. And the ones that do beat it, there's no reliable way to identify them in advance. You're almost always better off with simplicity and low fees. The second enemy is even more dangerous. It's you. Specifically, it's your emotions. Psychologists talk about something called myopic loss aversion. It means we feel the pain of losses about twice as intensely as we feel the pleasure of gains. Losing $100 hurts twice as much as gaining $100 feels good. This creates a problem. When we check our investments too frequently, we see the normal short-term volatility, the ups and downs that are completely normal. But our loss-averse brains focus on the downs. They trigger anxiety, and anxiety makes us want to sell. Here's a sobering statistic from JP Morgan. If you miss just the 10 best trading days over a 20-year period, just 10 days out of 5,000, your total returns would be cut nearly in half. And here's the problem. Those 10 best days often come right after the worst days. They come when everything feels darkest, when your fear is at its peak, when selling feels like the only rational choice. The people who sold missed the recovery. The people who stayed caught it. There's a famous thought experiment in investing circles. It's about a man named Bob. Bob is the world's worst market timer. Bob invested only at the absolute peaks, right before every major crash. 1972, right before the crash. 1987, right before Black Monday. 1999, right before the dot-com bust. 2007, right before the financial crisis. The worst possible timing. Every single time. But here's the thing about Bob. He never sold. He just held on. Through every crash. Through every recovery. And Bob still ended up a millionaire. Because time in the market beats timing the market. 100% of 20-year periods in market history have been positive. 100%. Even including the Great Depression. Even including the financial crisis. Patience has never failed. The third enemy is debt. Specifically, high-interest debt. Because compound interest works both ways. If your investments compound at 7%, your money doubles every 10 years. But credit card debt at 24% compounds against you. At that rate, your debt doubles every 3 years. You're running uphill. The math is against you. This is why paying off high-interest debt is often called the best guaranteed return in investing. Paying off a 20% credit card is the same as earning 20% on an investment. Guaranteed. Risk-free. There's no investment in the world that offers that. I've learned that the biggest threat to my compound interest isn't the stock market. It's me. My emotions. My impatience. My panic. The market recovers. My panic selling doesn't give me a second chance. Here's what the research tells us, and it's reassuring. The biggest risks to your compound interest aren't external. They're internal. And internal risks can be managed. So how do we protect our compound interest from ourselves? Let me share some strategies that have worked for millions of people. The first strategy is called the bucket approach. It's simple. It's calming. And it helps you sleep at night. Here's how it works. You divide your money into 3 buckets. Bucket 1 is cash. 1 to 3 years of living expenses in a high-yield savings account. This is your safety net. Your peace of mind. Bucket 2 is bonds and stable investments. Enough to cover years 3 through 10. This is your intermediate buffer. Bucket 3 is stocks. This is for year 10 and beyond. This is your growth engine. The beauty of this approach is psychological as much as mathematical. When the stock market drops 20%, you don't panic. Because you know you don't need that money for 10 years. You can wait it out. Your cash bucket covers your immediate needs. Your bonds cover the medium term. And your stocks have time to recover and compound. The cash cushion is crucial. Financial planners say it's the #1 killer of compound returns. Not having enough cash. Because when you don't have cash and you need money, you're forced to sell stocks. often at the worst possible time, during a downturn, destroying years of compound growth. The second strategy is automation. We talked about this earlier, but it bears repeating. Remove the decision. Make saving automatic. Make spending the conscious choice. Set up automatic transfers to your investment accounts. Set up automatic increases when you get raises. Let the system do the work. Your willpower is a limited resource. Don't waste it on decisions that can be automated. The third strategy is simplicity. There's something called the 3-fund portfolio. It's exactly what it sounds like. 3 funds. Total US stock market. Total international stock market. Total bond market. That's it. With these 3 funds, you own essentially the entire global economy. You're diversified across thousands of companies, across every sector, across every country, and the fees are typically rock bottom, 0.03% in some cases. There's no need to pick stocks. No need to time the market. No need to watch financial news. Just 3 funds, rebalanced once a year. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. The fourth strategy is what I call the sleep well at night test. Here's how it works. If your portfolio keeps you awake at night, your risk is too high. Reduce your stock allocation until you can sleep. It doesn't matter if some expert says you should have 80% stocks. If 80% stocks makes you panic and sell during a crash, you'd be better off with 60% stocks that you can hold through anything. A suboptimal strategy you can stick with is infinitely better than an optimal strategy you abandon in a panic. Your emotions matter. Your sleep matters. Build a portfolio for your psychology, not just your spreadsheet. The fifth strategy might seem counterintuitive. If you want to catch up, don't take more risk. Increase your savings rate instead. Here's why. Chasing 15% returns is a gamble. You might get it. You might lose 40%. But cutting your expenses to save an extra $500 a month, that's a guaranteed return. No risk. Just discipline. The math of saving is more powerful than the math of returns, especially when you're playing catch-up. Focus on what you can control. Your spending, your savings rate, your patience. There's one more concept I want to share. It's from a book called Die with Zero, and it might challenge some of your assumptions. The author argues that there's such a thing as dying with too much money, that oversaving in your 70s and 80s might mean missing experiences, travel you could have taken when you were healthy, gifts you could have given when they were needed, joy you could have experienced. This isn't permission to be reckless. It's permission to balance. To remember that money is a tool for living, not just a number to maximize. Compound interest is powerful, but so is a life well lived. I finally found peace when I stopped trying to optimize and started trying to simplify. 3 funds, automatic contributions, a cash cushion for sleep. That's it. That's my entire strategy. Take a breath here. There's no rush. The best investment strategy isn't the optimal one. It's the one you can stick with. As we come toward the end of our time together tonight, I want to circle back to where we began. To the question that might have been keeping you awake. Compound interest. 2 words that carry so much weight, so much hope, and sometimes so much regret. But tonight I hope we've shifted something. We've learned that our brains weren't built for exponential thinking. And that's okay. It's not a personal failing. It's being human. We've learned the rule of 72. Simple division that reveals how money doubles. 7% means 10 years. 10% means 7 years. Math anyone can do. We've met people like Ronald Reed, the janitor millionaire, Grace Groner, who turned $180 into $7 million, Ann Scheiber, who started at 51 with 5,000 and Ed with 22 million. Ordinary people. Extraordinary patience. We've learned about the enemies, fees that quietly devour your growth, emotions that trigger panic selling, debt that compounds against you, and we've learned how to protect ourselves. The bucket strategy for peace of mind, automation to bypass our present bias, simplicity with 3 funds, the sleep well at night test, and the focus on savings rate over returns. But the quiet truth about compound interest isn't really about money at all. It's about time. It's about patience. It's about trusting that small, consistent actions lead to extraordinary results. Your money has been quietly waiting for you. It doesn't care about your past, only your future. And your future, from this moment forward, is entirely in your hands. There's a metaphor I love. It's about the Chinese bamboo tree. When you plant a bamboo seed, you water it every day. For a year, nothing happens. You water it the second year. Nothing visible. The third year. The fourth year. Still nothing you can see above the ground. 5 years of patient, faithful watering. And then, in the 6th week of the 5th year, the bamboo grows 90 feet. 90 feet in 6 weeks. After 5 years of invisible growth, those roots were building, preparing, strengthening, ready for the explosive growth to come. Compound interest is your bamboo tree. The early years might feel invisible. The growth might seem impossibly slow. But underneath the surface, something powerful is building. And one day you'll look up, and you'll be amazed at how far you've come. At 52, I'm still learning these lessons myself. Every night, I lie awake sometimes, just like you. But I've found that understanding, really understanding, brings a kind of peace. The numbers aren't the enemy. Time isn't the enemy. Even starting late isn't the enemy. The only real enemy is giving up. And you haven't given up. You're here. You're learning. You're growing. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight. Thank you for trusting me with your late night thoughts. Thank you for being part of this community, of people who think deeply about these things, who want to understand, who want to do better, not out of fear, but out of love for themselves and their families. Now, let your mind rest. Whatever thoughts were circling, they can wait until morning. You've done enough. You've thought enough. You've planned enough. For tonight, let sleep come naturally. Let your breathing slow. Feel your body sink into wherever you're resting. Your shoulders dropping. Your jaw relaxing. Your hands unclenching. There's nothing you need to hold on to right now. Tomorrow, the world will still be there. Your questions will still be there. Your opportunities will still be there. But right now, in this moment, you can simply rest. Know that compound interest is working for you. Quietly, patiently, even while you sleep. Especially while you sleep. Your money doesn't need you to worry about it. It doesn't need your anxiety. It just needs time. And time is what you have. 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. Whatever you have is enough to make a difference. The quiet truth about compound interest is that it rewards the patient, the consistent, the ones who show up day after day, year after year, without fanfare, without drama, just quiet, steady growth. And that can be you. Starting right now. Starting tonight. In this moment of understanding. Sleep well, friend. Or rest well, if sleep isn't coming just yet. Either way, may you find peace. May you remember that you deserve good things. You always have. May your money grow while you dream. May your worries fade. May your future be bright. And may you wake tomorrow with a little more hope, a little more understanding, a little more peace. Good night.